We are live on Facebook. YouTube is always a slow one. Excuse me. Come on, YouTube.
I just saw YouTube.
Oh, did you get the...
Yep.
There it is. There it is. All right, we are live across the board. Hello, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. To quote an old Andy term, we have got a reviewer on the phone tonight, a real live reviewer. So you got a question for this review? You give us a call 808-468-7924, 808 got swag. What up, Ian? I got a ton of questions for this guy. You know, if you're a patron, you would have already have these because I put an email out to the patrons that said, "Hey, patrons, you got a question for this reviewer? You send it in, and I will ask it myself." And they did. I got a ton of patron questions here for. So, guys, it pays to be a patron. These kids knew. These kids got a question in. So, it pays to be a patron. Chad, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
I'm doing okay. It's getting cold. It was 20 degrees in Chicago today. Finally getting cold. Guess what? We're going to Texas next weekend.
Yeah, it's getting cold here too. It's in the 40s.
I saw the weather, Jess, in Texas. The weather's going to be in the 60s.
Hey, that's better than the 20s we have here.
Damn right.
We might we have a problem though with our Texas trip.
Yeah, Chad, get that.
Oh,
So we're going to Texas specifically for Jasmer caches for our September of 2000, for our November of 2000, and our December of 2000. But guess what? Tombstone, which is the September of 2000, is currently disabled due to construction.
seriously?
Yes.
So
Can you believe that?
I put an email in.
I can give you the final chords, and it's accessible through a neighborhood.
We might take you up on that just in case.
On that, yeah. But yeah, how crazy is that? Yeah. So I put a call into not a call. I put an email into the owner saying, "Help, please help.
Fingers crossed.
Please help me." Like, dude, I'm like, dude, that is like 1/3 of the reason I am traveling, to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
1/3 of the reason is for
so
that.
So you guys doing Syntax Prime?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're doing
trying to think
and,
what the other
and no walk in the park is the other one.
No walk in the park. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, we'll do Necropolis while we're there. Yeah. We're having an event while we're there.
Yes.
I should throw that event GC in the chat room.
Sure. Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll see all Chad's old buddies. Well, we'll be in Austin.
Yeah.
Were you near Austin?
No, I was in Houston, but I know a number of cashers out in Austin. So.
All right. Let's start this show. Oh my goodness, we had tacos tonight. They ain't sitting well.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'll live.
It's not Tuesday. You can't do tacos on
yeah, it's
Wednesday.
Taco Wednesday. You're absolutely right.
We had Waco Wednesday.
Okay. All right, here we go. Here we go. No, it didn't. I'm glad I double checked it. It didn't start. It started now. All right. Oh, there's the alarm too. Perfect time. All right, here we go. With 3, 2, 1.
You want to know how to find it. Seek it out when they hide it. You know it's in the bag when it's an easy grab. But come on, take a chance now. So go, geocache. And if you need help, we're right there in a flash. If you got a question, just call in and ask. Uncover the stash on the Geocaching Podcast. The Geocaching Podcast.
Welcome, everyone. It is Wednesday. It is 8:30, which means that it is once again time for the Geocaching Podcast. My name is Scott Burks. We have Shorty and It's manning the phones. And please welcome to my virtual left, my co-host, your friend and mine, Jazz 427.
Howdy, y'all. It's time for a conversation with a reviewer.
That's right, guys. Tonight's episode 597 is recorded live on January 8th, 2020. And it's a conversation with a reviewer, just like Chad says. Phone lines are open, kids. Give us a call, 808-468-7924. That is 808-GOT-SWAG, boys. But Chad, before we start talking to our reviewer,
Patreon.
We got to talk about Patreon, Chad. Guys, cost a lot of money to make the show work. I talk about it every single week, Chad. Every week. And like I was saying offline, if you were a patron, you would have gotten an email from me saying, hey, patrons, if you have any questions you want to ask him, you send it to me and I will put it in the show notes, which I have done. I put it in the show notes. So patrons' questions are already in the show notes, ready to be asked. But if you want to be a patron, we love it. Much like the McKinley family, the travel cachers on YouTube out of Springfield, Ohio, just became patrons. We thank them so much. Welcome to the inner circle, guys. So,
Awesome.
guys, you want to be a patron? You want to give us a little scratch to thank us for what we do here? You go to patreon.com, patreon.com/the Geocaching Podcast.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Tonight's show is brought to you by Cachly. Cachly is an advanced geocaching app for iOS. It features powerful online and offline features, including filtered searches, offline maps, and offline saving of caches. Cachly has hundreds of advanced features that will make your geocaching experience just that much better. Get more info at cachly.com. That's CACHLY.com.
And tonight we're sponsored by Logwork. Logwork are the creators of the fantastic logbook made with genuine write-in-the-rain paper. The logbook's designed for the micro-containers of the present and future. Geared towards a hider who would rather go cache than do cache maintenance. Find them at logwork.com. That's LOGWERK.com.
It's also brought to you by FTF Geocacher Magazine. FTF Geocacher is the magazine for geocachers written by geocachers with 6 issues a year. FTF offers practical advice, hints and tips, cacher bios and milestones, geocaching events, trail tales, and all things geo-related. Find them at ftfgeocacher.com. And I just got my magazine this week.
Oh, the one with Josh on the cover?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. There you go. And by the Max Suds Body Company. Max Suds Body Company makes handmade bath and body products from all natural oils and butters. Items such as Poison Be Gone soap, itch spray, and 2 cent choices of bug spray are all great for outdoor enthusiasts like geocachers. At Max Suds Body, we have you covered from head to toe. Find them at maxsudsbody.com, MACSUDSBODY.com.
And by Practical Geocaching. Practical Geocaching sells utility items for geocaching. Our items are made in the USA, and we always provide free shipping. Find them at practicalgeocaching.com. That's PRACTICAL geocaching.com.
And finally, by pathtags.com for all your swag and path tag needs. Visit our website to get creative help, to trade or log tags, or to purchase your own personalized path tag. With over 39,000 tags to collect, pathtags.com is everything you need to start your path tag obsession. Visit them at pathtags.com. That's PATHTAGS.com. And Chad, as always, you can find our sponsors in our website or in our show notes. Jesse, you got something in the news?
I do.
We got-
Our shop on geocachingpodcast.com currently has a promotion of free shipping on all orders $45 or more in the US, or international orders of $80 or more, only through January 24th. So if you want that code for the free shipping, sign up for our weekly email. I always include any sort of promos or offers that are going on our store online in that email. So you can always sign up for that on our Facebook page or through our website, geocachingpodcast.com.
Oh, thank you, Jess. Nice job.
Okay. Before we get to our email, I just wanted to say thank you to whoever sent me this T-shirt. I don't know who sent it, but here I'll kind of stand up so you can see what it says.
Chad has secret admirers. I'm just gonna take credit for it if nobody does. It's simple as that. Very nice, Chad. It's smart people. Nice, Chad.
So thank you, whoever sent me the T-shirt.
We got an email, Chad. We got an email.
I got mail. Yay! I got mail. Yay!
I love getting mail. Hi, folks. I have a follow-up question for your cold weather clothing episode. Going through the show notes, I noticed that there aren't any recommendations for pants other than thermal underwear. Do you just wear your regular pants in the winter? Do you have any recommendations for pants to wear in very cold temperatures? Thank you, Curiosity Girl, who was a patron on the show. Thank you, Curiosity. Jesse?
So
Yeah, I wear pants. I wear jeans. So I'm a jeans guy. Chad?
So I actually have jeans, Dockers, suit pants, and ski bib. That's all I have. So it's 99% of the time, jeans.
I'm sure you're not going in suit pants. Yeah.
I'm not going in suit pants for sure. If I were out in the snow, I would consider wearing my ski bib.
Fair enough.
But otherwise, yeah, it's jeans.
Jesse Brown?
I usually wear jeans with an extra layer underneath, so I'll either throw on a pair of leggings under them or some thermal underwear.
Yeah.
And then if it's extremely cold, I'll throw on my snow pants over top of my jeans.
Jess likes to throw on the snow pants.
I like the layers.
She's a layer gal. Yes, absolutely. All right.
But I prefer to cache in shorts, just not in really, really cold weather.
In like I was gonna say in the winter too, you're cashing in shorts.
Hey.
How about in the woods? You go in the woods, you go in shorts.
I was out this weekend, and my buddy Mikey, he was in his shorts and t-shirt. He always, I've never seen him in wearing pants. I've always seen him in shorts. So it doesn't get cold enough for him to I guess put on pants.
You know, it's funny. We have a friend here, Elvis. He whenever he sees us hunting his caches, just from the
People who log in the field.
log in the field like I do. He'll immediately call me up, like, "Where are you?" And he'll come out there. He'll come out there in flip flops, like walks around in flip flops, and I'm like, "You are insane!"
Mm-hmm.
You know, to sit there and cache in flip flops. Like,
Oh yeah.
In the woods.
in the woods, in like bad woods, not even good
Yeah.
woods, bad woods. Yeah, so hey, man, to each his own. I don't judge, but he's crazy.
Exactly.
That's all I got. So let's move right on to the show at hand. Guys, we have a treat tonight. We have a reviewer here. We've never had a reviewer on the show ever. That I've been on the show. I've been on the show for 5 years. We've never had a reviewer on the show. So, reviewer, are you there? He's on the phone. Hello, reviewer.
How are we doing tonight?
Hey, there he is. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, and you guys?
Doing very well.
Doing good.
So let's start out the basics here, and why don't you tell us who you are, where you're from, etc. Like, just your overall. Who are you?
All right. Well, I guess you're in luck tonight because I am Reviewer Smith, the Illinois Reviewer, which is where you're based out of. So
Yes.
most of your folks probably listening up in the Chicagoland area probably already know who I am. But if not, just kind of a little bit of a background on probably more. Do you want to do the reviewer history? Or do you want to do player history?
Reviewer.
All right, reviewer history. I guess I've been reviewing since 2013, so I'm coming up on 7 years. For the first year of reviewing, I stayed hidden in the closet, and now that has changed as of about 2015 or 16, is that any new reviewer that's onboarded by Groundspeak has 1 year to stay in the closet, and then they have to have what's called a reveal, so that people know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, reviewers prior to 2015 can still remain hidden. But anyway, so I've been reviewing for 7 years now, almost.
Wow. So that's 7 years of denying my caches is what it's basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. He loves to
Deny all of them.
He loves to do it, man. He loves to deny my caches. Yes, he does.
Well, it's one of those things that, you get as much love mail as you get hate mail. So when you do your job and publish caches, you get love mail. When you do your job and disable or archive caches, you get hate mail from there as well. But you're still doing your job.
And so how?
So if what's that?
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah. So I mean, and I think that's the important thing to understand is that, we are volunteers for Groundspeak HQ to review, caches, that meet the guidelines that they put forth. But yet, by the same token, we also have to deal with caches that no longer meet those guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
there's two sides of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the caches that no longer meet the guidelines, that's where you get a lot of your, kind of your hate mail sometimes from.
Sure, of course.
But
Right.
the thing is that if we don't do it, or if I don't do it, HQ is going to find someone that will.
Right.
Right. And guidelines.
Part of our responsibility.
And I assume guidelines change over time because there's caches that a reviewer here has let me put out, and then 2 years later,
Mm-hmm.
I do a almost identical cache with pretty much the exact same details in there, and it got denied because of a couple things, which, it's like, okay, things change. I did my tweaking and got it out there. But people need to take that into consideration. Just because it was allowed to be put out in the past doesn't necessarily mean that the rules have not changed and such that it's no longer permitted.
Yes.
Correct. Well, and that's actually in the guidelines is that prior cache publications do not, I can't remember how it's exactly worded, but prior caches do not, what's the word I want to use here? Does not set the tone for what is publishable today.
Right.
So, I mean, I've been caching under my player account since December of 2001. So, since 2001, things have come pretty much 360 degrees in caching. And even in the, coming up on 6.5, 7 years that I've been reviewing, there's been a lot of modifications and tweaks and adjustments to the guidelines due to the changes, within our society, within culture, just any number of factors. And the factors can be, localized or regionalized. It's just, and there's a lot of things I think too is important that, what may publish maybe say here in Illinois may not necessarily be publishable somewhere in, say, California, because of the different land use policies or different restrictions that have been placed upon various areas that we review for.
Right.
So that's where you can say, like, hey, how come my buddy in Illinois got it passed, but I can't get mine passed, kind of a thing. Right?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and even, we were discussing a little bit, prior to the show, I live in Central Illinois. My local park districts have pretty much an open clause on geocaching. They don't really care. You don't really have to seek permission per se. Now then, you go a half hour to the west, and a couple of the park districts over there are completely opposite. You have to have a permission. You've got to apply for a permit. There's only certain parks you can place them in, and so it can vary as much as we're talking 30 miles, but it could also vary within individual city limits as well.
True.
Yep.
So
Understood.
and trying to keep all those things straight, that's the challenge of the day. And a lot of because I may publish something that was okay a couple of years ago. Well, then I may get an email from that particular land manager or get an email from a cacher saying, hey, I just had the site superintendent or whatever come up to me and say, we got to get these out of here. Okay, well, then that changes the ball game. And then, again, as I stated, Groundspeak has done a phenomenal job of providing us tools to be able to identify these areas so that, we can go in and, what's called, I can zone it off or, kind of take that area of the state or the city, whatever it is, take it out of play.
Right. Okay.
For any future geocaches. So,
okay.
And those are continually being updated.
Yeah, I bet.
So you have some like do not go zone overlays or something like that?
Well, yeah, in essence, what'll happen is that, we'll call it a zone. I will zone off an area that has been either problematic or I get an email on or, my predecessors before me did a phenomenal job of zoning off, different areas, especially up in the Chicagoland area.
Mm.
And so if a cache gets placed inside one of these zones, it'll what I call throw a flag.
Yeah.
And I have to look into it. I was like, okay, where's this cache located? What is the forest preserve or what's the city? Blah, blah, blah. Does it allow and, geocaching? Then I have to go back through and kind of look up, okay, does DuPage Forest allow geocaching? Yes, in certain forest preserves, that they do allow caching, but you have to get a permit. And again, if a geocache pops up in one of these restricted areas or zoned off areas, I provide a very detailed note as to which forest preserve it is or which city park it is or whatever, whatever's throwing the flag. I give them the information so that the cacher can go and seek that permission or remove it because that is an area that is totally restricted from caching. A perfect example, O'Hare Airport has a large restriction around it for good reason.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Fun fact, my work.
So there is no ifs, ands, or buts. There is no caches being published inside this zone.
No,
So.
I know. My work is in that zone. I
Yep.
know. My parking lot of my work is in that zone. Isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
So-
before we start rattling off questions here, I just want to preface this with
Sure.
saying that RS can actually he is free to say no comment. I can't answer that, or I'm not going to answer anything about other reviewers and vice versa. Perfectly okay with that. We all respect that. And same thing with the callers. If you call in, I know I have someone in the queue right now. If you call in and he chooses not to answer that question, I can't guarantee he's going to answer it. But Jesse's in there and she's checking the questions, so she's I'm sure she would know like he's not going to answer that. So this one should be pretty good. So you mind taking a call here, RS?
No, go ahead. Let's rock and roll.
All right, so we're gonna bring in Ohio here. We've got on a boat. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello. You were on with Reviewer Smith from Reviewer.
Mr. Reviewer Smith, how are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm doing well. Hey, I have two questions tied together. But first, I want to say thanks for what you do. I know it's a big job, and it does a lot for us. So thank you for doing what you do. But thanks for coming on the show too. Happy to hear from you. So I have two quick questions. First question, and you're allowed to not answer this, but challenge caches. Do you enjoy the challenge cache aspect of your reviewing duties, or does that throw a difficulty in for you with all the different things you got to look at?
It depends on the challenge.
Yeah.
They are rather unique animals. A lot of times, for almost every single challenge, I will bounce, as do a lot of us. We will ask for what's called a peer review to make sure we don't overlook something. And because, I'll give you guys credit. You guys really push the boundaries on what, on some of these challenges. I mean, some of these things like, holy smokes, I never thought of that, or, thinking of that to become a challenge. And, then, you get people that are, and there's a lot of, and again, you poll 10 different reviewers, you're going to get 12 different answers, but the general consensus is, again, there's a fairly good help section article on challenge caches. But then again, also too, if it's something that even we may get stumped on, we'll send it up the chain, up to HQ to say, hey, can you give us some little guidance here? What's your guys' interpretation of it? And so, yeah, I mean, challenge caches, I think that the biggest thing with them was that after the moratorium was raised, is that what is publishable today versus what was publishable, back then are two different things. And so when people find a challenge that may be pre-moratorium, they want to hide one just like that. It's like, sorry, the new guidelines, sorry to rain on your parade, but the new guidelines state, this is the acceptable, this is no longer acceptable. Right. So,
yeah.
And your follow-up question?
Follow-up question is, for those of us listening tonight, do you have any suggestions to how we as cache owners can make your job easier in the review process as we submit those challenges to you? Anything that helps you in the process?
I don't think Scott has a long enough show.
That's an hour.
For all this. I think, this is a multifaceted question because we all start out as zero. We all start out as newbies. Okay. Part of the reviewer's role is to help guide those newbies in, adhering to and meeting the guidelines for cache placement and publication. I think in today's world, in today's technology, we have what's called, we'll call them the iPhone cachers or the smartphone cachers. I think that we've become such a society dependent on some of this technology that oftentimes we don't read the fine print on what those guidelines are. I would say 95% of the caches that I review, and again, I'm just referring to the state of Illinois here, from a newbie cacher is being sent back for a simple guideline infraction. Plain and simple. And usually it's, half of them are proximity guide, proximity alerts. Another cache within 0.10 miles that's visible. Now then, I can't fault them for, the caches, the hidden stages and whatnot, because everyone runs into those.
Sure.
But
Yep.
by and large, it's I just think that they're and I get their enthusiasm, but I think that in the rush to publish get a cache submitted and try to get it published, they oftentimes skim through the guidelines. And again, especially with a newbie, it takes me, if I have 2 or 3 newbie cachers in the queue, it'll take me 3 or 4 times as long to respond to their caches because of the very detailed write-ups that I give them, but they're often multifaceted. There could be 1 or there could be 5 different things wrong that I put in my notes, to fully explain, to them what they have to do to make that correction. And I guess that is the other thing too, is that in my reviewer notes, I'm very detailed on what guideline, has been infracted and what they need to do to correct it. Oftentimes, especially with newer cachers, and sometimes with some seasoned cachers, the cache will be resubmitted and 2 out of the 3 things are fixed. So then I got to send it back again to say, hey, please fix number 3, or whatever. So, those are the things that, kind of eat some time up. And those things can get frustrating at times, especially if you get the same cache coming back 3 different times. And it's like, okay, then you have to kind of put the hammer down a little bit and say, look, we're not going to go anywhere until these things are corrected.
Sure.
Right.
So
do some reading.
Yeah, do some reading, exactly. Well, and that's something that we constantly have. We are constantly reading and reading the guidelines, and HQ is they are always revising the guidelines again based upon things that have changed within society, within whatever you want to call it, or issues that they've run across that seem to be becoming a trend. Take for example schools. Schools has become a very hot topic over the last 5 to 6 years. I remember in my early days finding caches at schools because it was a project. It was a project that the schools did. Even playground equipment.
Sure.
Those things. What was acceptable 5, 6 years ago, not so much. Not anymore. Just because of the enhanced awareness that people have of their surroundings, and unfortunately, geocaching is one of those activities that draws suspicion. With what we're doing most of the time with how we're dressed.
Sure. All right. Ian, thanks so much, buddy. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right.
We'll talk to you soon.
So I had a quick question here. On puzzle caches, one thing that I've noticed when putting out puzzle caches recently is I'm being asked to explain how the puzzle is to be solved. Is that something that is like a new rule that's been added, or was it my previous reviewer in a different state just didn't require it, or they basically could look through and tell, oh, here's how you solve it?
Yeah, it could be a combination of 2 items. Again, if you look at the guidelines, again, the puzzle, you're supposed to in the reviewer note, put how the puzzle is solved. Now, and again, I can't speak for the other reviewers. Myself, my brain is not a puzzle brain, and so I need those details. Other reviewers can look at the puzzle and, oh, I get it, and not have to, don't need the detailed notes on how to solve this thing. But again, a lot of it too also is that I think for a while there, there may have been, and possibly this is, may have been a refinement in the guidelines, but again, don't quote me on this, is that there may have been some puzzles out there that just were seemingly impossible to solve. But yet, if we could go in, if we were contacted by, some people to say, hey, this thing just unsolvable, we can go in, to the reviewer note and say, no, it actually is solvable. I mean, I don't understand it, but it is solvable.
Right. I know there's a number of them out there that have never been solved. Some of like the Read My Mind one and other classics. And those are the ones that I've seen that never been solved tend to be older ones, and I kind of wonder are those really solvable?
So RS, I've noticed, and I'm not sure if this is across the United States or just in Illinois alone, an influx. You've been going crazy, disabling caches, archiving caches. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's going all over the country. Did something did Groundspeak change something or recommend something? Because you just went on a tear.
No, just the person that was completing the task. My predecessor, or one of my predecessors, retired recently, and unfortunately, due to he had some positive life changes, and so, but unfortunately, he did not have the time to devote to maintaining kind of maintaining that database of caches that needed attention. And so when I took it over, I had quite the backlog to attend to. And again, not faulting my predecessor by no means, because you only have so many hours in the day.
Sure.
And as we are volunteers, I mean, life gets in the way. As such, by his unfortunate retirement, but again, it was positive life changes. But when push comes to shove, you have to do what you need to do. So no, it's just a matter of me focusing and spending a couple hours each night on the task and going through there and kind of making an effort to try to clean things up. And we talked a little bit pre-show about that's I've gotten both love mail and hate mail for
Sure.
the recent actions, which again, that's part of the job, and I wouldn't have taken the job unless I didn't have somewhat of a thick skin. But people have to understand that that's part of our responsibility as well, is to it's part of the cache owner's responsibility more first and foremost is to maintain those caches.
Right.
And so and when I go through and disable and archive a cache and or potentially archive a cache, each cache listing is its own unique entity. There are many things that I look at in determining, do I disable this or do I archive it? There's some caches that I may come across, or I may get an email on from a cacher that says, hey, I just got, ran off by a land, something that, I consider like immediate jeopardy, where I'll go in and zap it right then and there and then take it out of play, contact the cache owner and say, look, here's what's going on. If you want to, I'll give you, maybe so many hours to, try to straighten her out, or otherwise I'll just, leave it zapped. Other times, if I'm going through and I see a needs maintenance icon that hasn't been attended to in a week or two, or a needs archive log that hasn't been responded to in a week or two, that's going to get my attention.
Right.
So, because, as a cache owner, when those type of logs come in, or even if you've got, 6 DNFs or 7 DNFs, and it's like a 1.5, you should be paying attention to that as a cache owner. So again, that's going to get my attention, where I'm going to, start putting it on my radar to, to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
So,
RS, I have so many,
really, yeah, go ahead.
I have so many questions for you. Seriously, just from that answer alone, I oh my God, my head is spinning. Okay, so really quickly, I have 2 quick questions. I'm going to go off script, and you can say I don't want to answer this. If you don't answer, that's perfectly okay. I saw on Facebook tonight and something about somebody had a reviewer. I don't know what state it was, and you could say like, hey, that's just a reviewer. Was saying, hey, this cache hasn't been found in 2 years, so I'm putting it, I'm just marking it as needs maintenance until you can get out there and check it just to make sure it's okay. Have you ever heard of anything like that happen before?
Well, again, as I stated just a little bit ago, each cache disable in our archive is its own unique entity. Again, without, and I can't comment on what another reviewer has done. We don't know the situation. We don't know the circumstances. Mm-hmm. When I look, at a cache, perhaps that hasn't been found in a long time, again, I look at the factors. Did the last person that find it, how long ago was it? How many finds do they have? Mm-hmm. If I see the last 4 or 5 DNFs, the cache only has, less than a dozen finds, I'm going to tend to, kind of let that one slip more. Whereas someone with, 15,000 finds, or 20,000 finds coming up, they can't find a 1.5.
Yeah. Throw a little respect.
Something's wrong here.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Throw a little.
Right.
So, but there's no perfect scenario per se, or there's no, what's the word I want to use? There's no procedure. It's all, I take each one individually, and based upon what I see in the logs, because I'll go back in the logs and look, is this a cache owner that has, maintain their cache over the time of the cache.
Mhm.
And if the cacher doesn't look like they're no longer active, then we're not doing the community any favors to try and prolong it along.
Mhm.
Now then and again, I've been caching since 2001. I've had to archive a couple of caches lately that are 2004, 2003, 2. It breaks my heart.
Oh,
Right.
shame on your
It
life.
really does. But things change. The area changes. Maybe a new parking lot went into this place. Just each situation that I had, there was something that made this cache spot no longer viable,
Yeah.
and
Right.
the local caching community didn't step up to the plate, and try to help it along.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too, is that with adoption of caches, I know HQ is kind of working on some stuff for, because I know that unfortunately we've had a recent passing of a well-known cacher in the Chicagoland area, and I know that kind of HQ is kind of working on some stuff to try to what's the word I want to use here? Have some sort of follow through or some sort of closing, of said caches. So,
Sure.
but there might be more information to that to come. But
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean those are things that we all have to somewhat plan for. So.
And what about the supposedly you got some new tools to help you guys, your viewers from Groundspeak? Is that
Well,
correct?
yeah, I can't really I can't really disclose what we have
Okay.
available, but Groundspeak has really blessed us with a plethora of tools that really help us be efficient at what we do. Even compared to what I started reviewing 6.5 years ago, to what it is today, the technology and the tools have gotten so much better that it really helps make us more efficient at what we do, which helps us get caches published faster or sent back faster,
Mhm.
one or the other.
Right. And
So
the health score system. I keep hearing something about a
Yes.
health score system. Can you explain that? I don't know how
Well,
much
if-
of that you can explain. Or...
Yeah, if you were to go to section 7.3 in your help section, again, this is all about the Groundspeak and HQ's efforts to help improve cache quality. We talked about, they've gotten so many complaints, over the years about cache quality. I've gotten, I can't even count how many emails I've got. Hey, can you do anything, blah, 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 about this particular cache? Okay, I'll look into it. Well, there's what's now called, HQ's developed what's called an algorithm to calculate a hidden health score for each cache listing. So, which, we can see and which HQ can see. And then also once it reaches a threshold, it'll automatically generate an email from HQ to that cache owner to say, hey, things are looking a little shaky here. You may want to go check your cache. So
Yeah.
We have I have an interesting question in the chat room here. We actually have a chat room going on. Can
All
a
right.
reviewer retire and then have a new person take over and use the same name?
I am not liberty to discuss
Oh,
reviewer retirements and or because as I stated, reviewers, there's some reviewers that are still in the closet,
Uh-huh.
and that are hidden. And it's just kind of a, I'm just not going to say much about
Fair enough.
that.
Hey, fair enough. All right. Is it true that if you archive a cache for lack of response from the owner, and then then when you archive it, they contact you, will you not unarchive it anymore? Because you used to do that, but is it true
Correct.
you won't do that? So
Correct.
you stop doing that.
Right.
You can't.
Unless I make the mistake, which I've made a couple, out of the.
Oh, you did. You did it today.
Let's just say out of the probably 1,000 plus caches I have processed over the last couple of months, I've made a few mistakes.
Right.
And we do. We make mistakes. We are not perfect. I'll be the first to admit.
You're human?
I have had to retract. Yeah, I'm human. Yeah. I've had to retract caches that I've published that say, whoops, I missed that. And it's usually because one of you cachers will email me and say, well, what's up with this one?
Right.
I didn't have enough reviewing juice tonight before I started my process. So, or I worked a 12-hour day today at work. Who knows?
Right.
So, it happens. So,
Okay, can you do a quick step-by-step guide of the process you do before giving a new geocache a green light?
all right. Sure. Well, first of all, I sit down at my computer and I pull up my reviewing screen, and then I will look through the caches that are ready for review. So then again, when I'm bringing up these caches, I have all those tools available to me via Groundspeak, and that when I bring up a cache, it'll do a multitude of things for me when I bring that cache page up.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if there's another cache within 0.10 miles of this cache listing, it'll throw a flag. If this cache is in an area that I have zoned off because of previous issues, or that it's a restricted area, it'll throw a flag. And then what I will do is I will go through and I will read through look at the title, read through the cache description. I will look at the placement of the cache, kind of look at the location, look at the type of hide, look at the terrain ratings. I will go through and look at any reviewer notes that a cacher may have submitted on there, to tell me, what kind of hide it is or what type it is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So then, if the cache then meets the guidelines, that we are reviewing against, as per Groundspeak,
Mm-hmm.
then we get to hit the magic button, and poof, cache goes live. Now then, if any, and then there's could be any multitude of things that, the cache may get sent back for. Like I said, proximity alerts, if it's in a restricted area. Again, and we talked about, I think one of your questions maybe down the road is commercialization and agendas.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, in the last 4 or 5 years, things have become very we've become a very sensitive society per se, and so I tend to err on the side of caution when I review against the agenda and or commercialization guidelines. And again, if I have a question about it, I am contacting one of my peers to say, hey, tell me what what do you feel about, am I overreacting? Am I not reacting enough? Help me out here. I think that's probably what maybe as caches don't understand, is that we bounce stuff off each other all of the time. It's hidden. I mean, you guys don't see it, but we are constantly getting feedback from one another for one thing or another, just because we want that second opinion to say, okay, this is really what it's supposed to be, or no, you're, totally off your rocker here tonight. I don't see it. Okay, thanks a lot, and go from there. So yeah, we're constantly double checking ourselves to make sure that, number one, we're not missing something, or two, to validate that, yeah, that's really, we need to send that back. So,
what's the most important thing you look for to get a cache published in a timely manner, and what pisses you off the most, personally, in terms of that?
Well, again, I think that, cache hiding and cache submitting skills comes with experience. I know that when I look at a cache that's got, less than, say, 20, maybe 30 hides, I'm going to be spending some extra time with them. If I pull up a cache page and I see it's, a cache that's got 100 or 150, 200 hides, 98% of the time I can almost be guaranteed that cache is going to come through problem-free. Unless there's a hidden stage, or, they fat-fingered a coordinate somewhere, that, the cache location just is like out in Lake Michigan or something. And then I'll send it back and with a little note like, are you sure about this location? Because usually for, like the newer caches, I'll give them my full scripts and everything. But, once I've been reviewing your stuff for a while, I'll start shortening up the notes and just saying, check this, will you? Kind of trying to, poke a little humor, like, come on, really? You sent me this? You've hidden 200 caches and you missed a cache within 0.1 miles? Come on.
Right.
So, and it happens to the best of them. It really does. And, but now with those things and once we get those newer caches, once we get them kind of, on the right track, and then, then it becomes more enjoyable to review those caches. Not saying that reviewing their caches early on, not as enjoyable. Well, I should say it's not, as enjoyable. It's just, it's more time consuming, but we want to make sure that they get it right because, obviously this person is going to be continuing to hike caches. So we want to guide them correctly. And then, when a new cacher submits a listing and it gets, to go through, on the first time, that's a huge accomplishment for both them and me.
Oh, nice.
So do you have a list of cachers that make you groan when you see them submit a new cache?
Yes, Scott Burks.
Not that you don't give them a fair shake. Not that you wouldn't give them a fair shake, but
yeah. And that's one of the things. After 6.5 years, I still look forward to sitting down and reviewing every single night.
Oh.
The caches that that there's been, let's just say some spirited discussions or spirited disagreements with. I mean, I think it's out of respect. I really do. I mean, because I've talked to these folks in person and say, look, I said, understand. I said, this is what I am bound by.
Right.
Just because you have a great hide location, I can't help it. It's within 300 feet of another cache that's already published.
Right.
I can't change that.
Right.
Like I said, I have to abide by these guidelines. And again, if there's an infraction, I am very specific on what, the details on what was infracted and why it needs to be moved or changed or whatever. So.
Okay. What's funny is I have a challenge cache out there, and I don't remember. I'm blaming you because this might not be you. It could have been the other one. We had another review. I have a 10 icon day challenge out there, and probably about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, Jesse and I did a 13 icon day. So I tried to do a 13 icon day challenge. I don't remember if it was you or not.
Wrong.
And so the reviewer came back to me. First of all, he wrote, "I was waiting for you to submit this." That's the first thing he said. And then he said, "Nope, not going to happen." Nope.
Yeah, and seeing that was a change in the challenge guidelines,
right,
as well at post moratorium. So, yep. And we touched on that earlier. Is that more times than not, it happens a couple times a year, whatever. I'll get a challenge cache and and they reference something. I'm like, yeah, well, that was published before this date. So,
right.
And again, I will link specifically, here's the help desk section, article on challenge caches. And, here's the new revised guidelines. And so most of the time they can salvage it and rework it to where it can be something that's publishable. But,
sure.
Northern Illinois is getting very saturated with challenge caches right now. And, regionally, that area up there, I've had to turn a few back because there's similar caches, within say 100 miles of each other,
mm-hmm.
And, as per one of the challenge cache guidelines, is that, you shouldn't hide similar challenges within similar areas. So,
really,
what's a similar area? I tend to use about 100 miles, so now you could hide the same challenge, say in Rockford, but you couldn't hide the same challenge in Chicago. But if you hide that same challenge down, like say down by Carbondale, yeah, that'd be acceptable because that's 5 hours away.
Yeah, it's hundreds of miles.
So,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
So
yeah.
what are the rules on like event stacking? Is there a radius range or?
Yeah, there's event stacking has really gotten a lot of press lately, and especially around mega events.
Mm-hmm.
So, and because what it came down to is that the events were being abused around mega events, and the fact that other events they take away from the mega event per se,
right?
Because when you go to a mega event, you're there for that event.
Mm-hmm.
You're not there for some other stuff. Now then, they have given us some latitude, like with CITOs and so forth, to have one published before and one after. I know that with the breakfast event coming up this weekend. I mean, we've hit our limit with what's available there.
Yeah, I can't believe you let that CITO through.
Like,
I can't believe you let that
yeah.
CITO through.
Yeah, well, and again, and that's something that's different too. Is Chicagoland area or your major metropolitan areas, 5 miles in Chicago versus 5 miles downstate. I mean, you're talking 5 miles in Chicago at rush hour. You what?
Yeah.
2 hours?
Yeah, right. Literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a half hour
down
easy.
here.
Yeah.
And so, I probably stretched that one a little bit. And same thing with GIF events. GIF events, we're allowed a little bit more latitude, to work around some of those things because the GIF events are a unique event in and itself, and they all come around once a year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. We had some people rejected for some February 29th caches or events when they said that the claim was that they were event stacking because they were within 30 miles.
Really?
And to be honest, 30 miles away from where this was is actually as as a crow's fly is almost an hour's worth of drive. So I don't know. I was with the individual that was trying to get her event published on this one, but I didn't know if there was a specific proximity or what, but he had told her specifically 30 miles.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, and again, I'm not going to speak for other reviewers or what they do in their state,
right.
But I think a lot of it, for me, a lot of it depends on where the event's at. Like I said, Chicagoland area, you can have something on the north side and something on the south side, and it'll take you an hour to get there.
True. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know. I lived in.
It may only be 10 miles away.
Yeah.
So.
I cached in Houston 4 or 5 years before I moved out here. In Houston, it's quite frequently that you'll have 5 events during a week somewhere in the across the Houston area. So, and like you said, an hour to 2 hour drive to get from one to another quite often as well.
Right.
But then on big days like February 29th, Leap Day, you're going to have several in the city, not just a couple.
Sure. An easy
Well,
way to get that is what it is.
Yeah. And I've had maybe one February 29th event come through. I'm sure I'm going to get more, and I'm sure there'll be some that are going to push the boundary. And I'm going to say, sorry, there's already an event, within, 10 miles of this or there's already another event somewhere. I'm sure I'll probably get one of them. So, although you guys are pretty good out there, so I don't really have too much issue with it.
Mm-hmm. So I have a personal question for you. So you cache, correct? You're a cacher.
Not as much as I used to. I'll be honest. When you become a reviewer, your caching under your player account goes way down.
Correct.
Shocking.
Yes.
Now then, do I still get out and cache occasionally? Yeah, you bet. But again, and this is just me, I can't speak for other reviewers or whatever else. Like when I go to an area, I look for the old stuff. I look for webcams. I look for virtuals. I look for some of the older stuff that maybe has some favorite points, whatever. So if I get 2 caches in a day, I'm happy. If I get 20 in a day, I'm just as happy.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's one of those things that's kind of shifted, where, the reviewing and publishing of caches is almost in a way taken the place of, going out and physically finding caches.
To say, where all the finals are on the puzzles. It's not much of a chore. It's kind of easy. Aren't they all parking grabs?
You know what? I know where they're at when I publish them. If I was to go back 5 minutes later, I couldn't tell you where. Because on average, I do anywhere between 10 and 30 caches a night. I don't remember. What's that?
Here was one of the questions that was asked. How many new caches does a reviewer get in a typical week? That's the typical week. Ballpark, obviously.
It depends. It depends on the state, depends on the area. For me, I get anywhere between 10 and 30 a night.
Wow. Really?
Wow.
So
you do the entire state of Illinois.
Yeah, he does the entire state.
Yeah, and I have the entire state of
Illinois.
Illinois.
Big state, man.
Yep.
It's a big state.
Well, no, you guys up in Chicagoland is what's keeping me busy, especially around event time. There's going to be some phone melting come Friday night. I'm just going to forewarn you guys.
Oh, I know.
Your phone is charged.
I'm so looking forward to it. I know. I know.
Yeah, and I don't know. The weather's kind of looking kind of iffy for Saturday. I'm hoping I can still make it up there. But
no, because I live right by there, so I'm excited. It's just gonna be new caches to hunt. Remember, I've been caching for 12 years. There's nothing near me to hunt, to to find anymore. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for it.
So when I started
I
caching,
referenced that, I started back in 01. Back when I would run my pocket queries from Central Illinois back in 2002, it would reach into Chicago.
Wow.
That's how few of caches there were.
Wow. From Central Illinois.
Yeah.
Wow. Well.
Right.
Chad, what do you say?
But yeah, on average, 10 to 20, 30 a night.
Wow.
On average, it's probably, I am at the computer anywhere between a half hour to 2 hours a night.
Wow.
Just to maintain, the pocket, the submittals, going through the, disabled, going through the, kind of the needs maintenance caches, keeping up to date with stuff that HQ sends us. So yeah, I mean, it's a time commitment. So
yeah, I can see not wanting to cache. I mean, it's kind of like takes the fun out of it, doesn't it? A little bit.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I still work full time. I mean, I work 50-hour work weeks, and so there's some nights I may look at the queue and I may only do half of them.
Right.
So, or if I'm traveling for work or traveling for vacation, the queue may sit for a day or so, but then I don't try to leave it go for more than a couple of days, just because there's so many that get stacked up in there. But the workload is still very manageable. So I know that one of your questions is, how do you become a reviewer?
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to cover that now or if you had other questions.
No, we'll get to that. We'll get to it. That's the last question.
Okay.
So one of the questions in the chat room is, in the chat room is, why do you do it? What's your motivation for doing it?
Well, we'll go back to 2000, late 2011, early 2012, when I was caching under my player account. As I, again, I started, December of 01. Took me 2 weeks to find my first cache, so I didn't log my first find until January of 02. But I also helped form the local Central Illinois geocaching group down here in Central Illinois. And it just kind of got to the point where I was looking to do more with the sport. I was looking to kind of take it to the next level. So, I talked with our local reviewer at the time, says, hey, I'm kind of interested in, in helping, support the sport, the game even more. I said, what else is available out there? He's like, well, have you ever thought about, a reviewer? I'm like, well, I suppose that'd be the next logical step. So, then shortly after that, I didn't hear anything. Well, then our club was awarded MOGA for that year, which you guys have heard of MOGA, right?
Sure.
Midwest Open Geocaching Adventure. So our club hosted that event in 2013 down at Lake Shelbyville. So once you are awarded a MOGA, life stops as you know it. As far as, because you are planning, it's nonstop planning from the time you're awarded to, the time the event closes. So that pretty much occupied all of my time. So shortly after, MOGA concluded, the local reviewer calls me up and says, hey, still interested in becoming a reviewer? I said, yeah. So, and that's kind of how that's changed from what it was back then to how things go today. So, what happens is basically what happens now. And so, basically once I said yes, then they go through and HQ does a thorough vetting process, and, they examine you and kind of make sure that you're going to be a right fit, good fit, blah, blah, blah. And, then if all the stars line up, then you're asked to become a reviewer. So now today, with the way it works, is there has to be a need in the area or the region that a reviewer is reviewing. Okay. So I'll use Missouri as an example. Let's see, what's it been? A year and a half ago, one of the local Missouri reviewers was going to retire. So then, HQ, so what will happen is a reviewer will then submit a few names to HQ for vetting. And then, HQ looks at everything. I mean, they do a thorough vetting. I mean, they even check if you're wearing clean underwear. It's pretty thorough. So,
Really?
Because
That
they'll go
much-
back
really?
and look, and everything. So, remember that email you sent to, Reviewer Smith, 6 years ago that, I pretty much, well, guess what? They're going to find it.
You blasted
or
him.
to HQ. Yeah.
So I can't be a reviewer, is what you're trying to tell me. That's
Yeah. Well,
You're on the naughty list.
yeah. Yeah. There's a list. But anyway, so then there's a whole vetting process. And then, if all the stars line up, because, they want someone that's active in the geocaching community, someone who's, basically a positive influence in the community and that would represent the sport well, because in essence, that's what we are. We are ambassadors. We are representatives of the sport.
Mhm.
So then if everything works out, then the person is asked if they'd like to become a reviewer. You can always say no, but most people don't.
I was gonna say, has anyone ever said no?
Yeah. Well, not to my knowledge. But again, I don't know what happens in other states.
Right.
They could have vetted people in other states, and the person said, I don't know if I want that headache or not. Because, again, like I said, there's love mail and there's hate mail.
Right. Sure.
It's about a 50-50 mix. But anyway, so then there's the whole onboarding process because, as I mentioned before, just the multitude of tools that HQ has available to us, there is a lot of training that happens. And so that's why HQ is given that kind of that 1 year period for that reviewer to stay hidden, because there's going to be mistakes made, and so it gives them a chance, for the reviewer to get to know the cachers, for the cachers to get to know the reviewer. And, just this past summer, I went down to Missouri to host, the reveal event for the newest Missouri reviewer, which again, he's been a good friend of mine for a number of years. And we just had a blast with it. I mean, it's just one of those that nobody had a clue to who this guy was. And when the reveal finally came, everyone was just like, oh my God. So kind of same thing, when I decided to come out of the closet, I came out of the closet in 2014, John, at Geo Woodstock in St. Louis, St. Charles.
Mm-hmm.
So again, mega event. So what are people doing at mega events? They're caching, right?
Right.
So, at Geo Woodstock's known as for having the reviewer panel at the end of the, kind of the end of the event. So, I hopped up on stage, and, came out of the closet. Well, that particular day, there was only 2 cachers from the Central Illinois region that stayed to see who the new Illinois reviewer was. No one knew that I was even going to make an appearance, but I did. And so, for that first 2 weeks afterwards, it was pretty quiet. It was like I was still in the closet. So then we had our annual club picnic down in Decatur that year, and someone had made mention, that they had seen my picture and, asked me where my other name tag was. And then from there, it just, word got out and spread like wildfire. And I got, oh my God, I'm so sorry for that email I sent you and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
everybody's
don't worry
apologizing
about
now?
it.
Right, sure. Yeah. Everybody's
Yeah,
suddenly
yeah.
apologizing. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's
but
awesome.
it was fun. And like I said, I still look forward to it every night, that I sit down and go through the query. It's just, I enjoy it. And it's, I think that's the important thing too, is, with cachers, when you're not enjoying the sport anymore, maybe it's time to, step back and take a break, because then it doesn't become fun anymore.
Right.
And I think maybe that's probably what, back in 2011, 2012, I was just like, caching really doesn't, this doesn't really thrill me like it used to. But you got to realize too, that back when I started in, 2002, we didn't have all these urbanized caches. Geocaching has really become urbanized, in the mid 2000s, where, when I started, it was a mile hike in the woods for one.
Right.
Right. Sure. One thing I absolutely respect about you, and I don't know if other reviewers do it. I don't know if people can mention in the chat room about their reviewers, but I love the fact that you're from middle of Illinois. You're hours away from me, and yet I see you at my events. Events that I attend. In my area, you show up and you sit and you talk to everybody. You will sit down with anybody who has a question, and you will talk to them. And that's respect, because that's I don't know if all reviewers do it or just you, or but it's
Oh, no.
I know our old reviewer did not do that. So it's really a nice thing.
The
to
old
see.
reviewer was also in the closet too. So,
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. But he came out. He did come out.
No,
He came
the
out
re-
at a Festivus event years ago.
Yes, that is right. No, the reviewers that are out of the closet, yes, they do attend events. The ones that I know real well, they're out there. They're meeting people just like I am. I'm just, like you said, there's only so many hours in the day. I can't make it to every single event. I try to make it to the bigger events.
Mm-hmm.
But as I stated earlier, we're ambassadors of the sport. We represent the sport, and that's what we're here for. Send us email, ask us questions, and I enjoy the events,
Mm-hmm.
because like I said, a lot of the, been caching since, early 02, I know a lot. I've known a lot of you guys, the Chicagoland guys, for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's probably one of the things that maybe I think made the I shouldn't say the transition, but the reveal maybe a little bit less painful for some folks. Maybe not. I don't know. Is the fact that once they found out it was me, like, okay, whatever. Because I was, somewhat known, especially downstate, more known downstate for my activities with our local club. So
right. It is 9:30. So do you have time to continue on, or do you have to run?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Nope, I got some time.
Okay, what I'm gonna do, guys, I'm sorry to do this to you, listeners. I'm gonna end this show right now, and this is gonna go to a patron-only show, is where it's going to continue on. So, Ed, I called you Ed. Excuse me. RS, can you give us like 5 minutes so I can close this show out, and then we can continue off air? Is that possible? Is that cool?
Sure. Yeah, you bet.
Just sit on hold. All right, guys. Sorry to do this to you, but it's for patrons only. Our show is only an hour long, guys. I know. Jesse's even giving me the shaking the head. I know he's disagreeing with me. But you know what? Patrons, you want to listen to the rest of this show? And trust me, I got a ton more questions for this guy, and he's apparently willing to answer them. So you want to hear the rest of it, you got to become a patron. So let's close this show. Next week, Chad.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Chad, thank you so much. Reviewer Smith, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. We're going to continue this on the Patreon, but thank you so much for listening. Actually, for talking with us. We appreciate it so much. Thank you for taking your time. Thank you for coming on the show. I know it wasn't easy, so we appreciate it. Chad, thank you so much. Jesse, thank you so much for On a Boat who called in. Thank you so much tonight. So next week, Chad, we are back. The first of the year.
Got a fun one.
Hashtag one up me, Chad. It's back. And it's one that Jesse thinks is pretty controversial. I don't think it is, but Jesse over dinner was giving me a hard time about it. It is hashtag one up me. What's it called? Where's my notes?
Getting hurt geocaching.
Getting hurt geocaching. Next week, if you've been hurt geocaching, you give us a call. We want to hear your story. Who got the best pain?
The winner gets a combination preform container.
That thing is absolute from Practical Geocaching. Those things are so freaking cool. Have you seen those, Chad? It's a combination lock on the preform. Perfect for a puzzle. It's absolutely brilliant. I love those things. So, guys, next week it is Getting Hurt Geocaching. So, Reviewer Smith, hold on, please. We're going to continue this conversation in about 2 minutes. And everybody else, thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll talk to you guys next week. So let's close this show out here. Let's get to my closing notes. Here we go. Please join us again every Wednesday night at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central as we stream live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and on our website, geocachingpodcast.com. The archived video versions of our podcast are available on your website or on our YouTube channel, and the audio versions are available on your favorite podcatcher. If you like the show, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate, review, and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it, and it really helps the show when you do. If you prefer to watch the show, make sure you click the subscribe or get notified buttons to know when we do go live. And hey, if you haven't already, please consider becoming a patron of our show. Hey, you get to hear the rest of this conversation. With tiers starting as low as $3, you get a ton of additional information, extra videos, extra audio, only available to our patron members. Please head on over to patreon.com today and subscribe. That's patreon.com/The Geocaching Podcast. Thanks once again to our sponsors, Cachly, Logwork, FTF Geocacher Magazine, the Max Suds Body Company, Practical Geocaching, and PathTags.com. Please visit our sponsors, and when you make that purchase, you tell them the GCPC sent you. That's all the time we got this week, so we'll talk to you guys next week, talking geocaching, taking your phone calls. In the meantime, be good, be safe, hug your loved ones, and we will talk to you guys next week. We are clear with the audio. All right, we are going to continue this conversation offline for the patrons only. So everybody who is in the chat room, thank you so much. We appreciate it very much for coming on and enjoying this this interview with the reviewer with us. And we will talk to you next week. #1UP Getting Hurt Geocaching. Thanks, guys.